Good day everyone, I am Joanna Christine Orande and today we will be presenting Unit 3 titled Design of Training and Development Program. Before I proceed, I would like to mention that we made some changes to our plan. We did not strictly follow what was written in the worksheet because we revised several parts including my introduction. So the flow of our presentation will be a little different from the original worksheet plan. So, to give you an idea, this entire module is centered on developing a training program, not just creating it, but ensuring that there are clear learning outcomes, the right content, and a proper sequence of topics. So, this also includes the use of competency-based training and new technologies such as LMS or learner management systems. The learning objectives of this module are fivefold. First, to enable us to design a training program based on learning outcomes. Second, to understand the different taxonomies of learning such as Bloom's and Anderson-Krathwohl. And third, to select and organize appropriate content. And fourth, to create competency-based training. And finally, to identify new technologies that can be used in training. So now, what is training? So training is not just a seminar or a lecture. It is a systematic process with various steps. But among these, the most important is the design and development of the program because the effectiveness of the training depends on it. So this is the heart of the entire program since all subsequent activities are based on it. As Ray way back 1997 said, it should begin with a clear identification of the needs of the individual and organization. So in this way, the time, money, and resources of the program will not be wasted. When it comes to frameworks, there are many that are used to streamline program design. So first, we have outcome-based curriculum design, where we start with learning outcomes first. So there are also guidelines for creating outcomes such as verbs, nouns or objects, and qualifiers. It also includes Bloom's taxonomy and the more updated Anderson-Krathwohl taxonomy, which focus on planning and assessment. Of course, sequencing of content is also important. So according to the module of Erasmus et al. Way back 2017, it can be chronological or step by step depending on the complexity of the topic. To make it clear, let's look at the case of ad hoc training program. They are one of the largest retail program providers in North America. What they do is competency-based training, meaning they focus on the skills that the job requires. They also use modern technology to make the training delivery more effective. We can see here that good design is not just theory, but can be applied to real-world situations. Now, let's move on to the first content of our topic. So, what exactly is outcome-based curriculum design? So, according to Biggs and Tang, way back 2011, it is not just about putting topics in the curriculum, but planning from the end what the students are expected to be able to do after class. So, that is, it is not enough for them to just know the theory. They need to be able to apply it, use it, and demonstrate it. So, therefore, all parts of the curriculum, lessons, activities, and assessments are linked to outcomes. So, we have learning objectives to make it clear what is expected. For example, to understand the concept of outcomes-based curriculum design and see why is it important in designing. So, why is it important? Because when the outcomes are clear, the student is not confused about what to do, and the parts of the curriculum are not too far apart. So, the lesson, activity, and assessment are interconnected, so the student is more likely to remember and use what they have learned. So this is not just for the test, but to prepare them for the real world. Now, there are three concepts I would like to share. First, learning outcomes, specific skills or results that students should achieve. Second, constructive alignment, one of the principles mentioned by Biggs and Tang. Everything from outcomes to assessment should work together to actually achieve the learning outcomes. So there cannot be an outcome that is not measured. Third, student-centered learning, meaning that not only the teacher is active, but the student is also. He or she participates in understanding, doing, applying, and demonstrating learning. So, one of the foundations of outcomes-based curriculum design is Bloom's Taxonomy. It provides a hierarchy of learning levels, so from simple remembering and understanding to analyzing, integrating ideas, and creating. So, through this, we know what level of the target outcome is. At the same time, competency-based training ensures that not only theory is studied, but actual skills required in the job or industry are learned and demonstrated by the student. Now, how do we do this? First, we need to clearly define the learning outcomes, not vague but specific. Second, we align the lessons and activities with the outcomes. So for example, if your outcome is to do a project, there should be an activity that actually does the project. So third, choose teaching strategies that will help develop the skills you want to see in the student. And fourth, create an assessment that directly measures the outcome, not just something else, but exactly what you want to achieve. So to make it clear, let's use an example from a hospitality management course. So outcome, able to create a standard menu plan, not just a nutrition class, but also a lesson on costing, presentation, and standards used in the industry. So activity, the students plan a menu with costing and nutritional value. At the end, they will present the menu and defend why the costing is like that, why the ingredients were chosen, and how they ensure the nutritional standards. So, in this way, the alignment is clear: outcome, activities, and assessment. Here in the Philippines, there are policies and programs that promote this concept. So, for example, in the CHED Memorandum and TESDA competency standards, they emphasize that graduates must have the skills and abilities expected in the industry. So, not just a diploma, but concrete skills that can be measured and demonstrated. So, because of this, students are better prepared when they enter the workforce. So, in conclusion, outcomes-based curriculum design is more than just academic standards. It is a way to ensure that every lesson, every activity, and every assessment has a purpose. And the purpose is not just knowledge, but also the ability to demonstrate what has been learned. So always remember, it is not what is taught that matters, but what the student has learned and is able to do after the process. So that would be all from my part. Thank you for listening. So the next topic will be discussed by Miss Lugil Francisco.
Good day everyone, my name is Lugil Francisco and today I will be discussing about learning outcome formulation, which is an essential part in designing and implementing learning or training programs. So let's now proceed to the next slide. So in this slide, I will be discussing what is the definition of learning outcome formulation and why is it important in designing training program. According to Stanford University, a learning outcome is a concise description of what student will learn and how that learning will be assessed. Having clearly articulated learning outcomes can make designing a course, assessing student learning progress, and facilitating learning activities easier and more effective. Learning outcomes can also help students regulate their learning and develop effective study strategies. So, in short, learning outcome refers to a specific knowledge or skills and attitude that a trainee should demonstrate upon completing a training program. It is important because it provides a clear and measurable goals for what a trainee should know, be able to do, or value after the program. So it is stand like a guide. So let's now move on to the next slide, which is formulating a learning outcome. So according to Erasmus et al. 2017, an outcome is the end product of a learning process, and it should include these elements, which is the first one is the social and personal skills. The next one is learning how to learn. Then concepts, knowledge, understanding, attitudes, and values. So why these elements essential in formulating a learning outcome? It is important because these elements creates a framework that prepares learner not only intellectually but also socially and personally. Additionally, these elements ensures that the learners acquire not only factual knowledge and conceptual understanding, but also critical skills for collaboration, communication, and lifelong learning. Um, this comprehensive inclusion aligns with the framework like Bloom Taxonomy that is also part of the module that will be discussed later on by Ms. Makaraig. So let's now move forward onto the next slide, which is the requirements of a learning outcome. So it stands as a framework or a standard for writing a learning outcome. It starts with the verb, as you can see here, which indicates the type of activity or the action word, plus the noun or the object, which is the goal, or it is the content or the issue that should be addressed in the training program. Lastly, it should have a modifier or the qualifier. It is for providing additional details for the performance of the trainee. Together, it creates an outcome that would be used in learning program. So we have an example here, as you can see. Um, Outcome. Demonstrate the use and care of specific carpentry tools in accordance with prescribed criteria. So if we will distinguish what is the verb, the noun, or the modifier here in the sentence, the verb is the word demonstrate, and the noun is the use and care of specified carpentry tools. The modifier, on the other hand, is the accordance with the prescribed criteria. So when it combining all this, it makes the perfect learning outcome for a trainee. So let's now proceed to the principle of formulating learning outcomes. So as you can see here, we have four principles. The first one is use clear, measurable action verbs. So it means you should specify what is the learner will do by making objectives that is observable and accessible. For example, the word demonstrates, analyze, and creates. By using these terms, it prevents ambiguity and ensures the clarity of your expectation. The next one is focus on observable trainee behaviors. It means you should focus on the behaviors of your trainee so that the progress can be reliably assessed. You can do this by making them do performing tasks and to solve a problem. The third one is be specific, concise, and achievable. So the outcome or the learning outcome should be clearly defining what is the expected by using a focus scope, and it should be realistic. Lastly, align with assessment and organization or align. with assessment and organizational goals. It's important because it ensures that the training is taught and measured directly to support your objective or your training. By doing this, it maintains the relevance of the learning process. So let's now tackle the types of models on formulating learning outcome. The first model is the widely used and most famous model among them all, which is the ABCD model. It guides on writing clear, measurable learning outcomes by breaking them into four components. A is for the audience, B is for the behavior, C is for the condition, and D for the degree. The next model is ADDIE model. So it used to develop effective education training programs in consist a five spaces. A for analysis, D for design, D again for the development, I for implementation, and E for the evaluation. The next model is the KSR model, which is the last example. KSR model or KSR learning outcome formulation table emphasize integrated three key dimensions into learning outcome. So the K in KSR model stands for knowledge, S for skills, and R for the responsibilities. To summarize those three, ABCD helps define objectives clearly, while ADDIE guides the in overall instructional development, and KSR emphasize on flexibility and learner-centered design with project management clarity. So in this slide, we will be discussing more about the widely used model, which is the ABCD model. So we already know that ABCD model has four components. It has audience, behavior, condition, and degree. So how do we write or how do we use the ABCD model? So we all know that each letter in the ABCD model stands for a specific part. A for the audience, which identifies who is the learner or the participant. B stands for the behavior, describing the action or the skills that the learner or the participant is expected to perform. For example, distinguish different types of natural resources. C is condition, meaning the circumstances or resources under which the behavior should be demonstrated. For example, the end of the session. D refers to the degree, which sets the criteria or the level of the performance expected, such as accuracy or the speed. For example, is completed or complete partially. Okay, so we will move forward on the type of outcomes. The first outcome is critical cross-field outcomes, which defined by Smith as essential skills and competencies that individuals need to develop. The function effectively across various fields. These outcomes include critical thinking, problem solving, communication and teamwork, and ethical reasoning, providing broad transferable abilities for success in diverse contexts. So, critical cross-field outcomes are the key skills people need to work well in different areas of life. And of course, the jobs like thinking clearly, solving problems, communicating, working with others, and making good ethical choices. This outcome helps individuals succeed onto various situations. So let's proceed on to the next outcome, which is the overarching macro outcome. So it was defined by Outcome-Based Education 2001 as a high-level education goals that guides the overall purpose and direction of learning, aligning specific outcomes with broader national or systematic aims. So on this outcome, these are the big overall goals that guide what education should be achieved by making sure a specific learning target fits into wider national or systematic wide objectives. The next one is intended result of education. According to Wentley 1993, it is a measurable statement describing what learners are expected to know, do, or value, following instructions, guiding curriculum design and assessment. So, to make this clear, these are the simple and clear statements that explain what students should be able to do or value after finishing a lesson or the course. They they help teachers plan what to teach and decide how to check if the students have learned what they need. So it is widely used by the teachers or the professors to track if the learners learn something. Okay, the last one is the link to national goals. According to SME 2006 and Outcome-Based Education 2001, linked to national goals is learning outcomes that aligns with the country's educational objectives to support societal development, workforce readiness, and citizenship. So this means that the learning outcome are designed to match a country's bigger education plans. These outcomes help make sure that the education contributes to the development of the society, prefers for the student for a workplace, and encourage them to be responsible citizens who actively participated in their communities and countries. So let's now proceed on to the last outcome, which is the specific outcome. So it was defined by Erasmus et al. 2017 as a result of narrowly defined aspects of learning required for a particular course or program. So it means these are the detailed outcome that is measurable, describing exactly what a learner should achieve. So they break down bigger goals into clear concrete skills and knowledge. For example, student can articulate the mean, median, and mode of a data set accurately. For the penalty, we are going to discuss the purpose statement. So what is the purpose statement? Again, to Erasmus et al. 2017, a purpose statement is a concise statement of why the course or the program exists and what is the learner should have to achieve to satisfy the requirements of the program. It is normally derived from the unit standard or the description of a particular job or task. It also includes in determining the training needs, assessment process. Now you're wondering what is the importance or the connection of a purpose statement in my topic, which is the formulation and learning outcome. Well, it is crucial when tackling learning outcome in designing training programs because it sets a clear direction for what training aims to achieve. So, knowing purpose statement is essential because it sets us a roadmap that guides the development, delivery, and assessment of the training program to maximize its effectiveness. So that's all for my topic. I hope you learned something about formulating learning outcome. The next reporter is Miss Makaliig that will be discussing more about Bloom taxonomy.
Good day everyone, I'm Jen Rose Magat and I'll discuss content development and sequencing. In these slides, content refers to the underlying knowledge, skills, attitude, and values that are required for learners of master the content development and sequencing. So, content means the important things need to learn. It includes the four elements: knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values. In knowledge is a multi-phase concept referring to the awareness or understanding of facts, information, description, or skills acquired through experience or education. In skills, the learned ability or proficiency that allow to the perform tasks effectively and efficiently. In attitude is a physiological structure that refers a person evaluates or feeling towards an object, person, place, events, or idea. So, lastly, is a values. Values are fundamental beliefs, principles, or standing that guide behavior and judgment. In this slide, content development is the strategic creation and assemble of information to achieve specific communication or learning goals, while content sequencing is the process of organizing that content into logical, effective order to improve understanding and retention for the audience. So, in short, content development is making the lesson and content, while sequencing is putting it in order so can we learn better. In this slide, we have a chart and we discuss about it. So, in this chart step is content development process. We have 8 steps to do that. So, first, gather information we need to collect idea, facts, and detail we need for content. Second step, finalize topic we have to choose. Best topic to focus. So, third step is make a strategy we'll have to plan how we'll create and share the content. Fourth step, start creating the actual content like essay, article, lesson, or script. 5 step, optimize and publish important to our content. Make sure it's clear, correct, and attractive then. We have to share it. 6 step, promote your content. Tell to other about it so more people can see it and check the content. 7 step, review and check the content and improve or update it if we needed. And last step, we have analytic and reporting. Look at the result like feedback on your own, how to perform or to see it work well. So, we move to factor to consider. We have 3 factors subject to learn the learner and the trainee or facilitator. First one is a subject matter characteristics. So how difficult or easy topic, it's what kind of knowledge is needs and how it should be taught. We need step-by-step teaching while art may need more creative. Second, the learner or the student or the employee, age, background, the ability and interest on the topic or the lesson. So, for the example is we don't teach kids that the same way we teach adult nice step, which means that we don't have to repeating the topic to them because we understand it. So the trainee or the facilitator, the teacher. So the teacher knowledge, teaching style, and skills sample. A good teacher know how to explain clear and keeps learner engaged the topic or the discussion. So we move to job data and documents. The important gathered from actual job, task, and responsibility within an organization. These include the written records, report, manual, job description, and performance data. These serve as a basis for identifying what knowledge, skills, and attitude employee needs to person efficiency. So, in job data and document in his information, we have 4 actual job tasks. First is a chapter and responsibility what the worker is supposed to be, just like sample, access your job description, say handled customer payment and give receipt. Second is written record or report notes and about how the job is done. The performance in exam or reporting that attend. Third is a manual step by step instruction. Fourth is a job description and performance data employee. So, we move to the type of content. First, we have essential, what the learner must know. Second is helpful, what the learner should know. Third, peripheral, what is nice for the learner to know. Lastly is unrelated, no relevance to learning. So, we have essential. Essential must know sample how to calculate profit and loss. Second, helpful should know sample how to use Excel to record daily sales. Third is peripheral, nice to know some people the history of cash registration or history that know how to register. So, we move to sequencing content. In sequencing content, we have 9 important things to know. First one is chronological. Chronological is arranging content according to the time order. So, we need to know the time in the new concept, then we need to arrange. So, the second is whole to part. Whole to part is starting with the complete content, then breaking into smaller parts. So, we need to know the concept itself and we divide it or discussing into a smaller or the part itself. Then, third is part to whole. We need to teaching them small part first, then combining them into a whole. So, part to whole is we need to part the concept and gather some information to create a new concept. And fourth is known to unknown. Known to unknown is starting with familiar ideas before moving to new concept. So, in this part, we need to know the concept itself to create new concept, to familiarize it. And fifth is unknown to unknown. Unknown to unknown is introducing new or unfamiliar ideas first, then relating them to what I learned already know. So, unknown to know. You need to familiarize or you need to know the idea of the others to elaborate your knowledge. Then, 6 is step by step. In this part is teaching content in a gradual progressive sequencing. So, in the training and development, we need to step by step because if we don't have need step by step process, you will not gain or you will jump to the another task that you know or you don't know the first step. So 7 is general to specific. In general to specific is starting with broad concept, then moving to details example. So in this part is you need to know the general concept to elaborate to others or giving them to example. So yung in 8 is specific to general, starting with details back, then drawing a general conclusion. So, you need to specific details. So, you have a facts details, then you conclude to that concept. And lastly is concrete to abstract. So, concrete to abstract is starting with real tangible example before moving to theory or abstract idea. Or so in this part is the example of this is using actual coin in class before teaching them to abstract concept of money. So, lastly, we have training program planning. In training program planning, we have 12 important things to know. First one is who the program was designed for. So, we need to know the target or learner of the participant. Second one is prerequisites. We need to require or prior knowledge need before joining the training. Third one is learning outcome is what learner and expect to achieve by the end of the training. Fourth, timing and sequencing of content. So, this part is we need to arrange topics in a logical order and setting the schedule. The fifth one is final outcome of the program. So, is the overall goals or expected impact of the training. Six is who will carry out the training. So, the trainer or the facilitator responds for delivering it. Then, next is learning content is the knowledge, skills, and attitude to be covered. So, we need that to strategize. And eight is training location. We need to know the place where training will be conducted. Like online via Zoom, in classroom, or the workplace. Nine is administrative arrangement. Is a logical support and preparing needed. We need to we need to conduct or arrange the hands out and equipment to set up. 10 is how the program will be conducted. The method of strategic or deliberate training, we need to know how to conduct the training. Sample, we need to conduct lectures, role play, or group discussion. Next is assessment method. In assessment method, we know how learners program are achieved will be measured. In assessment method, we need to demonstrate or practical demonstrate in the learners, and we need to give the quizzes, practical demonstration, and feedback form. And lastly, we need to know is pre and post course requirements. In this part is the activities before the app and after training to ensure effectiveness. We need to know the pre and post course requirements because we need to reading and post training applicant in the workplace.
Good day everyone, I am Chean Libahan and today we're going to talk about competency-based training or CBT. According to Erasmus et al. 2017, competency-based training or CBT is a kind of training that focuses more on the outcome of learning and not only the time spent in training. It is making sure that learners can really show the skills and knowledge they need for their work or future tasks. For me, CBT is important because it helps students or employees not just to know theories but also to apply them in real situations. In this way, training becomes more practical, measurable, and connected to what is really needed in the workplace. So, why we need to formulate CBT? First, CBT connect the theory and practice. It means we don't just study the idea, but we can also apply it. Second, it makes us ready for the job. When we learn through CBT, we can perform the task already once we enter the workplace. Third, it improves the performance of the organization because if the workers are competent, they make less mistakes and do the job better. Fourth, it helps the individual to grow because the training gives feedback so we know that we need to improve. Also, CBT can be measured, meaning the skills and knowledge can be tested with standards. It is also flexible because every learner can move in their own pace. And lastly, it answers the demand of industries. because the training is updated and fit for the real needs of employers. So overall, we need to formulate CBT because it makes us not only knowledgeable but really capable to do the job successfully. The concept of competency-based training is that it is learner-centered. Competence is a combination of knowledge, skills, and attitude. There is continuous feedback so learners always know their progress. The training is flexible and move at the pace of the learner, and most important, it is always connected to the real needs of the workplace. The framework of competency-based training follows steps. First, identify the job or role. Next, analyze the task and separate knowledge from skills. Then set the learning outcomes or what learners must be able to do. After that, design the training and the performance test. Finally, implement the training, evaluate it, and update when needed. The principles of competency-based training focus on outcomes, not just the process. Learning should be self-paced and flexible. Training is always based on the actual job task. Assessment is ongoing, fair, and transparent, and learners must show mastery first before they move to the next level. There are different models of CBT. Behavioral model looks at observable skills. Functional model focus on the workplace functions and tasks. Constructivist model lets learner build knowledge through practice and experience. An integrated model combine all skills, knowledge, and values. Types of competency-based training include on-the-job training, where learners study while working. Off-the-job training, like in classrooms or workshops. Blended training, which is a mix of face-to-face and online. Simulation training, where learners practice in a safe environment. And e-learning using LMS or mobile learning, which is more flexible. Some examples of competency-based training are nursing training, where students learn and show competence in handling patients. Retail training, like customer service and sales. Technical training, for example, welding, IT, or repair. Teacher education, which includes lesson planning and practice teaching. And call center training, which builds skills in handling clients. Learner Management System or LMS. An LMS is software or a web application used in training. It delivers and manages instructional content, tracks learner progress, and collects data for monitoring. LMS supports traditional, blended, and online learning, making it easier for organizations to handle training. New technologies in training and development. Today, there are many technologies that support training. These include web conferencing like Zoom or Google Meet, social networks and communities of practice, podcasts, blogs, wikis, and microblogs. Also, media sharing platforms like YouTube, collaborative tools for teamwork, and mobile learning or M-learning. These tools make training more engaging and accessible. So as we end this presentation, let's remember that competency-based training is not just about learning theories, it's about making sure that learners truly gain the skills, knowledge, and the right attitude to do their jobs well. This makes them more confident and ready for the workplace. For organizations, competency-based training also brings a big impact. It improves performance, reduces mistakes, and helps companies stay competitive in a fast-changing world. That's why we say the future of learning is competency based because when learners are competent, both individuals and organizations succeed. So that's the end of my presentations. Here are the references I use. Thank you.